Hi everyone, I'm Erica Stice. I'm here to introduce you to making velvet pumpkins. And pumpkins are just a big tradition in our fall decorating scheme. You see them everywhere. They come in all kinds of shapes and colors. And we today are going to make them out of velvet or velveteen. And you can leave these out as a decoration from September until after Thanksgiving and use them to decorate your Thanksgiving table. I've given them away to the neighbors' kids and made small ones and put them in their bags for Halloween when they've come trick-or-treating. So your supplies that you're going to need for this project should include fabric. Velvet is okay. Velveteen is really better because it's more pliable, easier to work with, and it's probably less than half the price of the velvet. So you've got your fabric and you need a pattern. A pattern could be a plate and you just simply put it upside down on the fabric, draw your circle, and you're done with your pattern. Then the next item that we need is batting that will go inside of the outside of the fabric. We will have beans that we need to have for fill, just so that they sit nicely. Fiber fill to take up the space inside the pumpkin. You will need upholstery thread and a needle, a marker so you can draw your pattern, a pair of scissors, and last but not least is the pumpkin stem. And this is a real pumpkin stem, and they will just give you a much nicer result than the artificial ones. Step one is to take your pattern. In this case, it's a plate. Lay it down on the fabric, take your marker, and just simply draw around the outside of the plate. And you should have a pretty good pattern to work from. Right there, just take a pair of scissors and cut it. So I've already pre-cut this one, so that's what it looks like after you've cut it. Then the next step would be to take the batting and use either the plate or the fabric that you've got and just lay it down there. And also cut that out so that the two pieces are the same size. Next step would be to thread your needle with the upholstery thread. And you should do probably 2 to 3 times, or have the length of the thread be 2 to 3 times the circumference of the plate, or the pattern, excuse me. And then you simply knot the ends so that as you're pulling it, you don't ever pull it back through the fabric. Take your fabric and have the needle ready to start in a downward motion on the outside of the fabric, and then do large, really large basting stitches so they're easy to pull tight when you are done. So you can gather them up like that and pull your thread through. And that's all you need to do. So if you recall, we cut the batting the same size as the pattern that we cut. And after you've stitched the outside of that pattern with your basting stitches, you've got the ends gathered, and you can then fit the batting inside of the fabric. Then to give it a little weight, we're going to take the pinto beans that we've got gathered, and we're just simply going to put some in the bottom. And I know they escape as you're doing this, but it's just the way it goes. So we just want it for weight. That's probably enough for that little pumpkin. Then we'll take fiberfill, and we're going to start adding fiberfill to give this some really nice shape. And as you do that, if you pull up the basting stitches that you've got, you can gather, or you can actually estimate how much you might need. If you want it really firm, you add more. If you want it to be floppy, you add less. And actually you need 3 hands to do this. 1 to hold the pumpkin in place, the other to hold the threads, and the third one to fill it with. But anyway, so that's kind of what it looks like before you knot it. And I think on this one we're ready to knot it, and it keeps coming apart. It's just, you have to just live with that. So you pull everything back together and pull these threads that you've got as tight as you possibly can to get that fabric as close as you can on the top. And then you want to knot this. And this is very slippery thread, and it keeps just wanting to pull apart. So you just have to hold onto it, knot it. Okay, we're done with the knotting. So you've got the ends pretty well towards the center, and this is going to require more. As you can see, the opening is quite large. The stem that we're going to use for this pumpkin has a smaller base than the opening, and if you were to put it on top of the pumpkin as it is right now, you would see all of the cut ends and the uneven ends, and you really need to just simply tuck those underneath the pumpkin stem. So in order to do that, I'm going to take one set of threads, cut them, and I'm going to thread a needle. So the needle is threaded, and what I'm going to do with it now is just, and I know this is difficult to see, but I am going to pull these loose ends together and hopefully get as many of them gathered up so they won't show when you put the pumpkin stem on here. So I have taken and gathered all of the loose ends that I can and put them in the center so that our hole has become really small. And you just do that by using a crisscross pattern with your needle and thread. And then we're ready to put this pumpkin stem on this pumpkin. So I'm going to use a glue gun today because that's what I have, but you don't have to have a glue gun. You can use super glue. You just be a little careful with how you put the glue on the base of the pumpkin stem. So we'll glue it on there and hold it for a couple of minutes, and you should be all done with your pumpkin. One more thing though that I should mention to you, which we didn't talk about earlier, is that you need to have a pretty flat base on the pumpkin stem. And you can achieve that one of two ways. So when you've cut your pumpkin out of your stem, the stem out of the pumpkin, not the pumpkin out of the stem, try to get as much flesh off the base of that pumpkin stem by using a microplane. And I would probably use a large one like this, just because it should be able to get that flesh off. If you don't do that before you dry the stem, to flatten the stem afterwards, you should have a wood rasp that you can just simply slide the stem back and forth on, and it will take off all of the unevenness and leave you a nice flat surface. And that is how we make velvet pumpkins. And I hope you enjoy making them, and I hope you enjoy having them in your home.